The Senate climate bill could keep the feds from regulating hydrofracking. What the head of BP says about that authority staying with the states. CEOs of 6 public utilities speak out today. We'll tell you what they want from the climate bill. And as the U.S. moves toward a carbon regime, one of the world's biggest economies drops plans to tax emissions.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good afternoon, I'm Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report. This afternoon, there are more meetings involving the co-authors of the climate bill. John Kerry has said a draft version of the Kerry-Graham-Lieberman bill could be ready as soon as this Friday when Congress starts its 2-week spring recess. One late addition to the draft could involve hydrofracking, the process that unlocks natural gas from shale. E&E News says the latest version of the KGL climate draft includes language prohibiting EPA from regulating hydrofracking. Instead, the bill would leave regulation authority where it is now, with the states. Today, Clean Sky's Tyler Suiters talked with the CEO of one of the companies reportedly behind that push, asking BP's Tony Hayward why state regulation is preferable.
It's simply a practical issue about where's the most practical way to have those regulations set and administered. And experience tells us that it's much more practical and efficient to do it at the state level than at the federal level. So it's a matter of efficiency and practicality rather than anything deeply philosophical.
Well, Hayward also talked about why he thinks a cap-and-trade system is the best means of capping U.S. carbon emissions. Tyler's full report on Tony Hayward's speech is right here at cleanskies.com. And despite the reported language in the Senate bill, EPA is still going forward with plans for a hydrofracking study. That was on the minds of many of the natural gas trade groups and associations who got together today in Washington for the industry's annual natural gas roundtable. They too want EPA to stay out of hydrofracking. And they say the EPA's study is likely to confirm an earlier examination by the agency in 2004 that showed hydrofracking did not impact water tables. Environmentalists contend that the Bush-era EPA was too cozy with natural gas when it developed the analysis, and the industry says while they are confident about the results, they will watch this latest study closely.
The science is pretty clear about shale and fracking, and that it's a safe, benign procedure. So I'm not too concerned about that because they're constrained by the facts. So I don't see this as a political issue. I realize people are making that argument that under the Bush administration, of course, EPA is going to say that. I think you're going to find that under the Obama administration, the EPA is still going to do a good job and come out with the truth and based on science. And I think that's good for the industry.
And Horvath said the industry made a mistake in thinking that natural gas would sell itself in the run-up to the Waxman-Markey vote. Now, as the Senate energy bill gets underway, he says the natural gas industry is now doing a better job lobbying for its interests than it was 6 months ago. You can catch more of Horvath's remarks and other roundtable speakers on our website, cleanskies.com. A pioneering catalytic process that turns plant sugars into premium gasoline has tested successfully, so say developers Viren Energy and Shell. They believe they can scale it up to commercial production. If they succeed, this would be the first refinery to produce gasoline and other distillates like jet fuel from plant feedstocks. Viren tested the process in a Wisconsin demonstration plant over the last 5 months. They say it converted sugars from all types of plants, although corn is now more economical. For the environment, they say biogasoline is a win.
The catalytic conversion process is in of itself highly energy efficient. So because we're making gasoline that naturally separates from water, the energy required for the final process is very low relative to some of the other pathways. And this gives us confidence that we will be at least 50% better than gasoline emissions from crude oil today.
And Viren says the biogasoline gives the same or better mileage than conventional gasoline. That would be an advantage over ethanol, which gives lower mileage. Viren and Shell will now explore whether to build a commercial-scale biorefinery. If so, where and when. Well, EPA wants the oil and natural gas sectors to track and report emissions of greenhouse gases. EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson said gathering this information is the first step toward reducing greenhouse emissions and fostering innovative technologies. She said tracking methane emitted by oil and natural gas systems is of particular importance. Methane is the primary component of natural gas, and it's considered 21 times more powerful as a greenhouse gas than CO2. EPA is proposing that the industries begin collecting data in January of 2011, start reporting to EPA in March of 2012. EPA finalized its greenhouse gas reporting system in October, requiring 31 sectors covering 85% of total U.S. emissions to participate. The latest proposal adds industries that emit fluorinated gases and facilities that inject carbon dioxide underground, either for sequestration or for enhanced oil recovery. Well, it'll be the first ever flight of an aircraft powered solely by biofuel. The U.S. Air Force is scheduled to fly an A-10 Thunderbolt II jet aircraft at Eglin Air Force Base on Thursday. Also known as a Warthog, this aircraft will fly using processed camelina oil as its fuel source. The military and commercial airline industry have conducted several test flights in the past year using biofuels, but all of those flights tested only one engine at a time. The Air Force says it hopes to certify the F-15 Eagle, F-22 Raptor, and C-17 Globemaster to begin using biofuels by this summer. The CEOs of 6 public utilities are in Washington today to meet with the large Public Power Council. The LPPC is looking to get a seat at the table when it comes to negotiating Congress's upcoming climate bill. Among other issues, the organization's asking lawmakers to include public utilities when it comes to renewable subsidies. Right now, only private investors get production and investment tax credits for wind and solar. The new law was written to encourage private money into the development of renewable energy. But with renewable portfolio standards on the horizon, the utilities want to be able to build their own renewable projects.
The difficulty is that it's all purchase power. We don't own any of the projects. And it's mainly due to the fact that we can't participate as part of the incentives, which means basically that our customers are paying more money for it because we have to sit down, go through an RFP process, and then negotiate with the developers, versus us doing it directly. I would suspect that today we're probably paying more than what we could if we were doing it ourselves.
We're all not-for-profit, so our primary objective is to serve consumers at reasonable cost. So if incentives are provided to us, they de facto get flowed through to consumers, and they don't get bled off into the profits either of wind developers or of investment banks who otherwise provide the financing mechanisms.
Most of the folks that you're looking at that are these independent developers aren't well capitalized. Most of us are in great financial shape, and we can bring more to bear on the project.
California Senator Barbara Boxer has introduced legislation that would let public utilities compete for renewable energy grants. A new report says American Indian tribes can help combat climate change and create jobs and revenue through renewable energy development. National Wildlife Federation says tribal lands make up nearly 5% of the United States and hold around 10% of its renewable energy resources. The report says solar energy on tribal lands could generate 4.5 times the total national energy consumption in 2004, 17,600 billion kilowatt hours. It outlines challenges tribes face in renewable energy development. For example, they do not benefit from tax credits or loan guarantees that would attract investors. France is scrapping plans for a carbon tax. President Nicolas Sarkozy called the tax a vital weapon in the fight against global warming when it was first approved by Parliament last year, but France's highest court struck it down 2 days before it was to become law on the grounds that there were too many loopholes for big industrial polluters. The Prime Minister says any carbon tax will now have to be introduced at a European level in order not to harm the competitiveness of French companies. That carbon tax would have made France the first big economy to tax carbon emissions. Let's take a look now at some energy goings-on around the Beltway tomorrow. 8:30 a.m., Senator Amy Klobuchar and White House Climate and Energy Advisor Carol Browner headline a forum on going green in America's cities. That's at the National Press Club. 10 a.m., the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee holds a hearing on improving energy security and the environment through transportation policy. That's in Dirksen. 1:30, Senators Maria Cantwell and Susan Collins will be headliners at a bipartisan policy center discussion on putting a predictable price on carbon. That is in Russell. And that's the Energy Report. We'll see you tomorrow with all of your latest energy news. For any suggestions or comments about our programming here on Clean Skies News, we'd like to hear from you. You can email us at contact@cleanskies.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. From all of us here in the Energy News Center, good night.